So, raise your hand if you can name the 4 inner planets. DJ?
Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars.
Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. And these planets are called the inner planets because they're the closest to the sun. Alright, so there's this thing that separates the inner planets from the outer planets, and it's called the asteroid belt. And this is made up of asteroids, where most of the asteroids hang out. So the first planet we're going to talk about is Mercury. This is a picture of Mercury, and you might be wondering how they took such a detailed picture of Mercury when Mercury is so big. What they did was they joined a lot of smaller photos. They took pictures of the planet in sections, and they joined those pictures together. And the reason that this spot looks kind of blurry and not like the rest of it is because they didn't have the pictures to put into that area. So they don't know what that particular area looks like. So it's just kind of a blur. So Mercury is the planet closest to the sun. It is a small planet, a little bigger than Earth's moon. So that is pretty tiny. It's covered with thousands of dents, and these dents are called craters. And these craters were made when meteorites crashed onto Mercury's surface a long time ago. So a crater is kind of like a bowl on the surface of the planet. The next one is Venus. So here's a picture of Venus. What do you remember from your study guide that was kind of significant about Venus? Chloe? They refer to Venus as Earth's twin sister. Raise your hand if you can tell me why. That was on your study guide too. If you've been looking at it, you should know. Graham?
Because it has plains and highlands.
It has plains and highlands, and one more thing. Volcanoes. Very good. So here's a little picture of Venus. And Venus is the second planet from the sun. And it's about the same size as Earth, but Venus turns in the opposite direction. So if Earth is turning this way, Venus is going the opposite way. I bet that's something you didn't know about Venus. And like Mercury, Venus is very hot and dry. Why would Venus and Mercury be hot and dry?
Because they're right next to the sun.
Because they're really close to the sun. So the closer a planet is to the sun, obviously the more hot it is. But unlike Mercury, Venus has an atmosphere made of thick, swirling clouds. So Mercury doesn't have an atmosphere like Venus. And we're going to talk again about the atmosphere of Venus in just a second. So here's some facts about Mercury and Venus. But our question says, using the chart, what is one reason people cannot live on Mercury or Venus? I'll give you a second to look at the chart. Oh, yeah. Okay. So look at the chart and tell me one reason that people cannot live on Mercury or Venus. Bethany?
It's too hot.
It's too hot. Look at the temperatures. The average surface temperature of Venus is 867 degrees Fahrenheit. It gets about, sometimes up to 100 degrees here in the summer, and that's really hot for us, right? We just walk outside and you just instantly start sweating because it's so hot. So think about what 867 degrees feels like. Most of our ovens at home only go up to about 500 degrees. And think about whenever you open that oven, the burst of heat that comes out. And that's pretty hot. Well, even on Mercury, the surface temperature is 243 degrees. So that's still pretty hot too. So she's right. The reason people can't live on either of those is because it's just way too hot. Alright, using the chart, how much longer is Venus's Earth year than Mercury's? How much longer is a year on Venus than on Mercury? What are we going to have to do here? Subtract. And we're going to subtract
225 minus 88.
225 minus 88. So let's just do it together. We have 225 minus 88. Can't do this, so we have to borrow. Well, sorry, that's just a 1. 15 minus 8 is 7. This was a 1, have to mark from the 2. That becomes an 11. 11 minus 8.
147.
3.
I mean 37.
137 days, right? Let's see what it says. 137 must be days, if we're just looking for the length of the year. Alright, so now we're moving on to Earth. You have a question?
Why is Venus hotter than Mercury?
It's closest to the sun.
Mercury is closer to the sun.
Mercury is actually closer to the sun, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get to that in a second. If we don't, I will come back and answer that question. But I'm pretty sure it shows up later. Alright, so Earth, our home, is the 3rd planet from the sun. You ever heard, it's kind of a long time ago, there used to be a TV show called Third Rock from the Sun. And it's just talking about Earth. Earth is the 3rd rock from the sun because what are the inner planets made up of? Rock. They're rocky planets. So it's our solar system's largest rocky planet. It is the only planet that has liquid water on its surface. In fact, most of Earth's surface is covered with water. Recently, scientists have been doing a lot of research on Mars, and some scientists believe that Mars could possibly have liquid water. It does have water in the form of ice, because it does have ice caps on its surface, but life can't, or you can't live with just ice. You have to have the liquid water. And so they're hoping that they can find this liquid water on Mars so that maybe they can find life on Mars.
Why doesn't the ice melt?
Well, think about it. Mars is even further away from the sun than Earth. So maybe that has something to do with why it's ice, because it's not close enough to the sun to make it melt. That's why Mercury and Venus don't have water on their surface, because they're so close, the water just boils away. If there were water, it would just boil away. And Earth is the only planet in the solar system known to support life. So Earth has a moon. What 2 planets do not have a moon? Oakley? Mercury and Venus do not have a moon. Earth is the first planet that does have a moon. How many moons does Earth have? Just 1. Alright, so moons are satellites of planets, and what that means is a satellite is anything that orbits around another object in space. So the planets are kind of like satellites of the sun, and the moons are kind of like satellites of the Earth, or of the planets. So just as planets revolve around the sun because of gravity, moons revolve around planets. Earth has 1 large moon, and the diameter of the moon is about 1/4 the diameter of Earth. Remember, it said that Mercury was just a little bit larger than Earth's moon. So the moon is pretty small compared to Earth. And what is something significant that we know about the moon and how it affects things on the Earth? What is something that the moon affects on the Earth? Wait. Ocean tides. Depending on the location of the moon and the time that it is on Earth, we have high tide and low tide. So that's one way that the moon directly affects the Earth. Alright, so Mars is which planet from the sun? 4th planet from the sun. And notice it's kind of red in color. We're going to talk about why in just a second. So Mars is the 4th planet from the sun, and the rocks and soil that cover much of Mars contain the mineral iron oxide. So everything on the surface, most of the surface and the rocks, are made of this mineral iron oxide. And this mineral has a reddish-brown color, and you can also find, it's the same material that makes up rust. Have you ever left your bike or something like that out in the rain or outside for a really long time, and the rain just poured down on it over a long period of time, and then you started to notice these little reddish-brown spots on parts of your bike? Has that ever happened to any of you? Yeah, well that's rust. And that same material that makes up rust makes up most of Mars' surface. And that's why it has a red color to it. That's why we call it the red planet. So let's see if we can name the 4 inner planets. Raise your hand if you can name one of them. Logan? Mercury. Mercury is one. There it is. Savetta. Venus is another one. I think it's over here. Yep, there it is. Ilion. Kobe. Earth. I think it's over here. There it is. And the last one, Kristen. Mars. So the 4 planets that make up the inner planets are, name them with me. Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. I'm sure you guys already knew that. Alright, so let's take a quiz. See what we found out. This planet is closest to the sun. I'm going to draw a name. Alright, raise your hands again. Desiree, come circle it.
Circle it.
Work them legs. That's okay. Good. Mercury is the planet closest to the sun. Good job. Alright, now find the planet that is the 4th planet from the sun. Emily. It is Mars. Very good. Alright, I think this is the last question. This is the largest of the inner planets. Abigail. Very good. Everyone agree?
Yes.
Good. Alright, we're going to do a writing activity. And you're going to write a paragraph about the solar system, including 5 facts that we talked about from the inner planets and the outer planets flip charts that we just went through. It's not that hard. But Ms. Bird told me that she is looking for sentence structure, correct grammar. So this is serious business. Wait. So don't just act like it's not a big deal. This is for your practice on learning about the solar system and your practice in writing. So we're going to get you some paper in just a second. Kristen with a K. She just wrote a book. Alright, let's see what all she wrote about. In our solar system, there are 8 planets. The first planet, Mercury, is very hot, but Mercury is not as hot as Venus, the second planet from the sun. This is because Venus has a thick atmosphere. Earth, the 3rd planet from the sun, is the only planet known to support life. Earth is also our home. Mars is the next planet. Mars is also known as the red planet because it is so red. Those were the inner planets. Next are the outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Jupiter is the largest planet. It is also the home of the Great Red Spot. Saturn is right after Jupiter and has broad rings. Next is Uranus, which has the dark spot. The farthest from the sun is Neptune. Neptune is blue and very far away. Let's get Kristen ready. Alright, very good. I think I am going to use that. That was very good. Alright, we're going to do one more, okay?
Not mine.
Blake.
Yes.
Oh dear. Alright. Pay attention, guys. Pay attention. Saturn is the 6th planet from the sun and has a big ring around it. Earth is the only planet with life. Jupiter is the largest planet and has a big red spot on it. Venus is known as Earth's twin sister. Mercury is the closest to the sun, and it is the smallest planet. Neptune is the coldest and farthest from the sun. Very good, Blake. That was awesome. You guys did a really good job.